Hello.
What's the password for the manager?
They won't tell me.
I was saying.
Ben?
Second.
You don't know anybody.
Ben might know, actually.
What's the password for the manager?
Great.
You ready?
Lowercase what? Okay.
1
Okay.
1 2 3 3 4 4 lowercase f is in Frank. 1 2 0.
Thank you.
Don't ask me why it's that.
Because no one will ever remember it.
Exactly.
Okay, we all set. Good. It's so quiet. The last 2 meetings, we actually had like a whole crowd of people. So this is good.
Yeah.
Back to normal. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. I like it.
Hi, Murphy.
Hi, Murphy.
Hi, Murphy.
Okay, well, with that, and being 6 o'clock, let's go ahead. I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledges of allegiance right over here by the brick column. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ann?
Present.
Here.
Yes. Here. Present.
Here. Everyone in attendance, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Matt. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. 1.4 is our portion for public comments. Do we have anything submitted? Good. Okay. We can go right into our presentation part of the meeting, which is Mr. Vincent is going to show us the presentation he has put together for the referendum information and based on the school district information that you have presented.
Right. So what I want to do is draw all this together. So through multiple meetings in the last year, we've approved at a separate meeting, we've approved the building concept. We've through different actions, we've put a question on the ballot. We've approved the referendum. We looked at financing at a different meeting. So I just wanted to draw it all together. This is also kind of a test run for the community presentations that are coming up and whatnot. So any feedback that you guys have would be appreciated. So as we all know, we're looking at March 19th for the referendum information. Everything, and I'll hit on the board too, but every presentation or anything that comes from the school needs to clarify that my role as a speaker, but also it affects staff, it affects board members as well. So in layman's terms, anytime that you're on the clock, anytime you're functioning as a board member, you can't advocate for or against any referendum or any campaign related thing. So for staff, that's when they're contractually on the clock, they can't do that. Obviously, as citizens, they can do that, and that includes Facebook posts and things like that. I'm considered a 24/7 employee. I'm considered the only 24/7 employee of the district, so I can really never advocate for any position. So my role is to provide information, to reply to any questions, connect to other organizations like the assessor, the county clerk, things like that, and especially not to persuade people to vote in a particular way. So all of this is just fully informational about the concepts, about the financing, about some frequently asked questions that we've seen before. So I could also have a presentation that lasts several. I mean, you guys have just in the last year, and everybody that's been through the core planning process. I mean, that was 27 meetings, over 50 hours of this. So to synthesize this into a quick presentation is challenging. So I narrowed it down to the process. How do we get there? What will the school look like? And then how would the taxes affect me? And then also provide an opportunity. The more this is out there, I'm not naive to think that everyone will search the referendum website and look for accurate information and things like that. So the more that this is out there, this is also can get accurate information for word of mouth and things like that. And then we did put a lot of time into the frequently asked questions, and that continues to evolve as we get more and more questions, or something pops up on Facebook, or somebody asks a question, we add to that document. So there's a lot of frequently asked questions on there, and it's all just information. So the big picture overview, as all of you are aware, the core planning process went through extensive research and looking at every different option and arrived at the most feasible option for the taxpayers and the long-term future of the district. Again, big picture, the referendum, the total project cost that we're looking at is $28.4 million. We're asking the taxpayers for half of that. The cost to the taxpayers estimated between 99 and 126. We have to give that range because of not just future assessed values, but also there's a number of different exemptions. The most common being the homestead exemption. There's several different veterans exemptions. There's senior exemptions. There's senior freezes. So when we get to the tax part, and I would encourage you to do the same. If people approach you or ask you, send them. We have a tax estimator on the website. We try to give that the most accurate information that we can, but the variables are out there. It's not a linear equation in that my house is worth this much, so I could just multiply that by 100. Like, it doesn't really work that way, and it's non-linear, and it's based on a lot of different factors that aren't solidified yet. So, and that's why I referenced the tools have been created. We're really proud of the website that we created for this. It's all informational. It's every piece of information that we could think of to put on there, and it's something that we can continue to add to as well. So, as you know, as the board had appointed the core planning group in December of 22 to fix the high school. We also had an election a few months later, in which every candidate that was running at that time said their number one issue was to solve the facility issue at the high school. So that core planning group went through a process in which they set up some guiding principles, a mission statement. The guiding principles included efficiency, taxpayer stewardship, security, community involvement, learning, and identity. That core planning group included staff, board members, and school facility experts. They had met for 27 hours just in the meeting with research outside of that through this last October to consider every single option that we had on campus. And to boil down, a lot of research went into these 7 that were considered. They priced out all of these with somebody that works in the field every single day. These are not square footage estimates. These are really a hypothetical bid that a builder had put together into 33 different divisions. And really, if he were bidding the project, that's what he would have bid it at. So this is, in the past, I know that we've just looked at square footage and multiplied it by whatever the square footage going rate is. This is much more specific than that. So we looked at these 7 options and ultimately decided on what's listed here as option 6. The renovation of approximately 30% of the high school, commonly known as Senior Hall, deconstruction of 70% of the high school, and connecting GHS basically between where the current gym is now to where the new gym is to my right. When we looked at the plan, a couple things have come up. The biggest, I think, is safety and security. So when we talk safety, it's not just safety within the building. It's also the added parking that we'll gain on the east end of campus will take cars off of the street. Right now, it's a dangerous situation. We have 16 and 17-year-olds parking on the street and swinging their door open into oncoming traffic. Like it's the hand we've been dealt at this point, but we really think that this design also solves that to where we won't have any more on-street parking because we'll have a huge parking lot with ample parking. So, and then the security issue that we all think about and talk about and see in the news is the forced entry in the vestibule, like we have at GEMS, into the office. They have to be buzzed in. Right now at the high school, as you all know, they are buzzed in, but we are trusting visitors to be buzzed in and then make their way to the office that's 100 feet down the hall. It's not an ideal situation in any school. So increased safety and security, I'd say, is the number one reason that we want to do this. And then connecting the schools, we get that once in a while, questions about that once in a while. To connect the school, it adds a lot of staffing efficiency. It's cheaper to heat and cool it. It's cheaper to clean it. It adds some operational savings as we move forward as well with some shared staffing. We've already seen that when we move the primary up here. We've seen some. I always think about our kind of K-12 wide departments like special education, like reading intervention, things like that. When they're stationed at one school, it really locks them into only working with that grade band of kids. Right now, that we can put staff where the needs are instead of limiting it to just primary reading intervention or just middle school reading intervention, because we are in the same building. So I also wanted to show just some I think renderings that show what we're doing. At the top of the screen is Franklin Street, and you can see the wings to the far west as you look in the top left there. The white is everything that we just completed, and the proposed addition and renovation is there in that tan color. These are just some renderings that we had to put together to answer the question of what will it look like. This would be, if you're looking from, I'd say Mulip's Furnishings, this is what it would look like across Franklin and into the K-12 building. This is the backside. I wanted to show this because I wanted to touch on, while you see the football field in the renderings, you see the bleachers in the renderings. Those are not part of the project. It's just an orientation type thing. And then on the backside of the school, this would be looking at the top of the hill where the tennis courts are. As you look, that kind of senior wing with the white roof, that stays and is renovated in this proposed project. And then at one of the meetings that we had, some people had some trouble orienting themselves and with, where is Franklin Street? Where's the front of the school? Where's the back of the school as you look at this? So we did add a rendering with labels on it as well. So this would be looking at on the east side of Franklin, looking up where the proposed new gym would be, and then that main entrance. So one of the most frequent things that we get is how will this affect my taxes? I mentioned at the beginning, there's no way to tell exactly how much. There's just no way. There's too many variables right now. We don't know what the interest rate. We know the range of the interest rate was likely when we sell the bonds. We don't know, where the assessed value in the district boundaries. So one of the things that not everyone understands is the tax rate is directly related to the valuation, the assessed value of the entire Galena School District property boundaries. And then the higher that those are assessed at, the more new construction that we get because of that actually have a inverse effect on property taxes. So the more development that we have, that it actually has a reduction effect to the local independent residential taxpayer. And then the future value of your home and also future property growth. All of those are unknown. So if somebody comes in and says, exactly how much is this going to cost me? I can give a range. I can't give, because of these variables, I can't give an exact amount. Here's what we do know. We are asking for $14.2 million total of the $28.4 million project. We know that it would be a 20-year bond. And what your fair cash value on your most recent tax bill is. And again, at this point, I would direct people to the, there's a big button on the main page of the district website that will lead you to all the referendum information, especially and including the way to estimate your taxes. So that's the best way to do it. When you go to that, it just looks like this. Again, there's a number of different exemptions that will lower the assessed value of the home, including the senior assessed value freeze. That is not included in here. These are the two most common exemptions. So again, to list all of them would make it a really cumbersome tool, and we didn't want to go there. This is the simplest tool that we could come up with so that people can estimate their fair cash value on this. On this example, I gave an example of, are you eligible for a homestead exemption? The answer is yes. Are you additional for the senior citizen exemption? The answer is yes. And then on that initial 100,000 assessed value or fair cash value on the property tax bill, that's actually $85. So that's actually lower based on that. Again, it goes by ranges. I'm not saying that for every senior citizen who lives in their house, it's not linear, that they can't just take 85 and multiply it by their assessed value of their home. It's different than that, and it would be included to estimate in here. This is one of the most important things that I think I can get across is, when you get your property tax bill, you'll see all of your taxing bodies and that in which you live. Okay, so you'll see the fire district, you'll see the school, the city, et cetera. Now, while you see the school district total tax rate, that's really broken down into two separate buckets. One is that's the operating levy. That's the levy that we just passed in December. The other is the bonds. Okay. Now the tax levy portion is going to be the majority portion, and it functions like your personal budget, your personal checking account. Money comes in and it goes out to pay bills like utilities and groceries and day-to-day type things. So as your income comes in, a certain amount goes out for day-to-day type things. That is the best parallel that I can draw for a school district. The tax levy is for operations in the same way. The levy comes in 5 different installments, and then we pay our bills, we pay our insurance, we pay all of that stuff over the course of the year. The bonds are different. The bonds in a parallel residential homeowner situation, the bonds are like a mortgage. Okay, so that $14.2 million, whatever that payment is, depending on the interest rate, that's locked for 20 years. That can't go up or down with assessed values or really any reason. That's locked. So it's the same way as a homeowner would take out a mortgage. If you take out a 30-year mortgage at a fixed rate, it's going to be the same payment at the front end as it is the back end. Now, that's not to say that the individual homeowner has the exact same payment for the bonds over time. That's not locked, because as the assessed value in the district boundaries go up, as the tax base rises, that could actually go down. So we expect, over time, you see the assessed values, it continues to rise by 3, 5, 7% from year to year. That will actually drive that particular portion of the tax rate down, if that makes sense. That's in my opinion, that's the biggest misconception about the school bonds is that particular part of it. That bond portion of the tax rate, that is as stable as it can get. Okay. So while we're talking 104 to 126 right now, 10 years from now, if the assessed value continues to go up in our district boundaries, that payment that you'll see as that portion of the tax rate is probably going to go down. Any questions about that? So there is, and again, I would direct to there's a big button on the referendum page on the district site of frequently asked questions. Again, it's a warehouse of every question that we've ever received, every possible question that we think we might receive, and it's broken down into 4 buckets. It's an overview. It's what do we do to prepare. It's overall financial information, including the taxpayer, some of the taxpayer frequently asked questions, and then the benefits to the district. Here are the most common. Okay, here are the most common things that we received in the last, let's say, month. If this building was built with no property tax increase, why can't we do the same thing for GHS? Okay, good question, common question. It's great. Last year, and I've been telling people we pay for that with 1% facility sales tax. So that includes restaurants, that includes motels, that includes basically everything but groceries and day-to-day things. So those are exempt from the 1% sales tax. But last year we got $834,000 in 1% sales tax. Okay, $834,000. Our annual bond payment for 20 years on this building, of which we have 18 left, is $800,000. It's last year was $799 and $34. I mean, it's within, again, once you lock in, you're locked forever. It's locked right at $800,000 for that. So there's no capacity to do that again down there, if that makes sense. So that's the first question that comes up. The second question is, what has happened to the primary school? You guys have seen the leases. You've known what's going on in there. But here's a quick rundown of what's going on. Currently, we have the county. We have 4 government county offices in there. Midwest Medical Fitness classes are there. Family Ties is an early intervention program that's run through the county. It's housed in Freeport, and they needed a space to be at the west end of the county to serve East Dubuque and Galena. So they use an office down there. A wrestling program operates out of there. Mr. Kluzik's home maintenance course operates down there. You've probably seen the deer blinds on the old basketball courts down there, and they function out of a couple classrooms out in the old special ed wing down there. We have our in-district food pantry is down there that's operating out of the kitchen right now. The Galena Chamber of Commerce uses that for some storage. And then we use it for district storage, primarily musical and play set things. In the future, we plan to continue to house the K-12 wrestling program down there, as well as district storage. We have 2 years ago, we looked at a concept that was, a transportation hub that would include, the ability to pull in a bus. This is a perfect weather to talk about that when, you may have drove past the primary school parking lot, and Dennis, our transportation director, is chipping off ice off of all 11 of our buses. Probably not ideal if we can prevent that. And I've mentioned several different times, I think the future of that school includes some vocational programming. That can be anything from, law enforcement to all of the trades to culinary classes to things like that. I think we have a shell of a building that's pretty solid with some renovation. I think we can offer a lot to our kids that we just were unable to before this building came along. And then childcare would be another portion. It would be considered vocational programming with that early childhood with the playground right there. It makes a lot of sense in a former school to run some childcare daycare out of there. That's nothing set in stone. You guys all know this, but it's something that to answer the question, what is happening in the primary school? All of those are possible. All of those are possible. And then next are how are, you get this annual property tax levy. How do you spend your money? Okay, so let's start with revenue. And the big picture is the biggest chunk of our revenue is local property taxes. We get 81% of our operating funds through local property taxes. We get state aid that's just over 7%, and then the rest is federal grants, interest income, some other grants, donations, things like that. But it's a very small portion of that make up that last 10 or so percent. Property taxes are spent on 68% are spent on salaries and benefits. We're a people organization, so we hire a lot of people to serve a lot of kids, and so it makes sense that 68% are in salaries and benefits. 10.8% would be considered contracts. That's things like liability insurance, workers' comp insurance, snow removal, lawn care, maintenance contract to take care of all of our stuff. That's all of our contracts. Capital outlay is things like furniture and some technology. That 7.6% of capital outlay that you see there is largely computers to maintain a one-to-one for the kids. So they see it, as well as some different furniture purchases and things like that. 7.3% of supplies. So in that bucket is things like food service, our fuel, all of our utilities, teaching supplies, things like that. And then 6.3% is our vocational tuition to Elizabeth, as well as bus leases and things like that. So that's all of it. I mean, so that's why this question comes up. Like, why don't you use the annual levy to pay for a building? It's impossible because of this breakdown. If that makes sense. And then the next, and I hit this a little bit earlier, but how did you arrive at your estimates for your options? We had an existing relationship with a guy named Brandon Keltner. He worked for Sostrom, and he recently switched to Larson & Larson Builders. He's very invested in this project. He took the plans from the core planning group, and again, instead of doing a square footage estimate, he hypothetically bid on 33 different divisions. When we talk divisions, they do, HVAC is a specific division, masonry is a specific division, site work is a specific. So it's 33 different categories of things. He separated those out and added them up to the things that you see there on the options 1 through 7. And then we were lucky enough to have the Iowa City Public Schools facility director in on this project in our core planning group. He looked at all the numbers with Brandon. Dwayne Van Hemert is that man's name. Dwayne has done almost $1 billion with a B in school projects, over the last 30 years. So those two, their expertise were great as part of the process. But this is how we know that the estimates are solid, is because of the expertise of people that work in the industry, in the school facility construction industry. Again, I'm going to draw people back to the website. If you have questions, if you are looking for information, if you want to check out the tax estimator, if you want to look at pictures, the website I have it linked here to send out. But the easiest way to find it is pull up, Google search Galena School District. It's the first button in the top left of the page, and it will take you to that link right there. I'm also available. You can call me, you can email me. I'll set up a meeting. If you run into anybody and they're curious, I'll do one-on-one meetings. I'll do group meetings. I'll go wherever I need to go to get this out there. So most important thing for me is people are voting yes or no with accurate information and not gossip, hearsay, my neighbor told me this, etc. So do your research and vote the way you want to vote. We also set up 2 different open houses that were finalized this week. They're both Sundays. One is February 11th from 7 to noon. That is also when the Lions Club, that's the Super Bowl. It's also the Lions Club breakfast. That's why we want to have it early. We're not pairing with the Lions Club, but we thought kind of a one-stop shop. It's a high traffic thing. If they want to check out the high school, if they want to check out GEMS and walk through, we have open houses then, as well as February 25th from noon to 4. And that February 25th meeting at 3:00, there's a panel That will include Ann Noble from Stiefel, who's our bond agent. It'll be myself. And then we're working on a couple others as well. Marty Johnson, and we're finalizing some other people in the panel. So, you know, I've hit this over and over, but please do your research. We have a frequently asked question that the question that you have is probably answered in that document. We have a tax estimator that's available, the informational website. If I ever get a question that is not on there, I'm going to put it on there. So we're trying to make that a comprehensive one-stop shop for all the referendum information. So, questions from the board?
27 hours, 27 meetings.
I'd have to look into that. I think it's 27 meeting hour. I have to check that. Yeah, I'll have to check that. Yeah, it could be.
We met, what, every 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Every 2 weeks makes sense.
I don't care what it is as long as.
Yeah, get it accurate. Yep. We'll check it. Questions from the board? Is there anything that's missing that you're hearing out there, or questions that I could answer as part of this? Do I have the most frequent questions hit in there? We feel good about it?
The only thing I don't hear is education of what, some of those nerds, just like an off the cuff comment, we've got safety, security, and all those things, if there could be like one comment about, expect whatever you think is the appropriate dimension. It doesn't have to be on there, but just an off the cuff thing.
Sure.
There will be people, you've been doing pretty well. You have 2 kids at Yale, 1 at Stanford. You're going to be able.
Sure.
Great.
Good.
Can we pay it off early if we get to
There's, at the time of the sale, you have to set a call date. So that's the only difference between a mortgage and a bond, or that's one of the main differences between a mortgage and a bond, is you have to set a call date. And it's a short window in which you can either refinance, pay off some or all, and do it that way. So we're looking at setting a call date somewhere around 10 years. If it's possible to pay it off early, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
That's kind of how we did it with this building too. They set the call date right in about the middle of when our bond is due. They put the call date in the middle.
Mhm.
If we ever ran into
Right.
a giant pile of money to pay that off early.
that mortgage on that one's way too good
Way-
to refinance?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
right. It would be silly to do that,
Yeah,
but if we
yeah.
wanted to ever allocate funds, if we
Right.
could do it, I mean, it
That's-
kind of depends on what your urgent need is.
Yeah,
there,
the
too.
bond for this is just under 2.3%.
Yeah, it's crazy to not keep it going. But
Yep. And we expect the tax estimator is using 5.25%. If we were to take out the bond, if we were to sell the bonds tomorrow, we'd have somewhere around 5. It wouldn't be 5 1/4. So it's a very conservative estimate. I struggled going 5 1/4 because it is it's lower, but it is a conservative rate to which I want to be as transparent and accurate as possible. So if we need to pad those numbers and then surprise people on the other end, people will react better to a surprise like, oh, it's lower than there's the reason why it would be lower is because we got a better interest rate. So
That'd probably be a pretty big bump. It was like at 4 when we sold the bond.
yeah,
right.
which
It'd be
is,
significant. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be significant.
that's probably, you could probably add that in. It would
Right.
be a good,
Right.
I would probably try and sell that too. It's like this, we're being very conservative on the
I think-
estimate here, and
I think the rates are gonna drop.
I do too. That's what they're projecting, so.
Is it a leprechaun?
Yeah, all signs are pointing to this being in the 4s for municipal bond rates, and that it's significantly lower than a home mortgage. Right now, a home mortgage I think is in the 7s. Municipal bonds are tax free for the investor, so they do get we do get a better rate based on that. But I agree. Not making any promises, but it's projected to be in the 4s.
Next year's an election year, so you can bet the interest rates are going down. I don't know how that happened. It's a mystery.
Anything else for Mr. Vincent on the presentation part? For that, great job.
Looks good.
Enjoy going out with those.
For sure.
Nice when you get that passion and
Yeah.
excitement. and
For sure.
good news to people. Exactly.
I think it's good to be blunt too. I think it's The goal is to just lay out all of the information, read it, and then, just be accurate when you vote is all I ask.
Well, you get the information out of people that are gonna make them tell.
Right, right.
They have it version, anybody is, well, that school's good enough. When I went there, even when I went there, it was only 20 years old. I'm not 65.
Yep.
So,
When I started here,
a long time ago, like.
when I started here, I was 16 years old.
Kind of, you kind of a horse and buggy.
Backwards, uphill both ways.
Yeah, here we go. Anything else
It
there?
wasn't good enough even then.
We roll right into administrative AD student board member reports. I think we'll skip Mr. Freed's. It's attached in board docs. I knew his son has a game. Do you want to touch on anything else? Do you have anything else to add?
I would just hit I wanted to start with, we were forced into e-learning during COVID, and, long-term e-learning is not good for, is not good for kids. It's not the best way to deliver instruction. But intermittently, it's been working really well for us. I think we've landed on, kids are not in front of a computer all day long, but they are, intermittently engaged depending on how old they are, what their age of the kid is, and everything. We had district-wide, we had over on all of our e-learning days, we had over 95% of kids that logged in and engaged. So I think we're hitting a really good balance right now. I would just mention too, it is tough to, we had no idea when the weather started coming last Tuesday that the following Tuesday after Memorial Day would be so, dangerously cold with 33 degrees below zero and all of that. So that looks very different from the teacher end, to not be able to prep the kids the day before. Like, there might be e-learning tomorrow, and this is how you log in, and this is what we're doing, and all of this. It looks very differently on two. So I really struggled with calling off school today and using e-learning because it is a different scenario for teachers. So everything I've heard though all day has been they've been troopers. They stepped up and it went really well. So just kudos to them. But and the kids for engaging and logging in. 95% is right on target to what our normal attendance is on any in-person day. So and then my last thing was just to hit the open houses, but I did that as part of the presentation. So.
Good. Principals want to add any high points?
No, ditto on the e-learning. I think it's been productive for these days, but I think we're at the max with the novelty, especially for students starting to wear out. And I think the students, and especially the staff, and most especially the staff that have students, are all ready to come back. And be back. I will say that yesterday, they had almost every subcontractor was here, finalizing things on the punch list in every different room, so we had a lot done yesterday. And today, they just a few hours before the board meeting, they got the projector screen functional. Our gyms are in high demand now. Those of you that are on those calendars know that just about every open time that we have is booked up, and they're working, doing good progress on the bleachers in the south gym. And they should have that finished by Thursday, and the plan is Monday. They drop off the bleachers and they start in there. So PE is just going to bounce between the two gyms in the next week or two, and then looking forward to 2 weeks where they can split the classes up and utilize both gyms. And then our first home basketball game of the year will be January 30th. We're going to have the first girls game in the South Gym. But the second game will be in the new North Gym with the scoreboard. Exciting because the end is getting closer.
Yeah. That's great. Anything from Mr. Salt? Ms. Hawkins?
Just a couple high note things. We are starting our NWA MAP mid-year testing. So for the next board meeting, I'll have some data from that for science, reading, and math. We also are partnering with the city of Galena to be an early voting polling place on February 23rd. And so I'm working right now on schedule so that our staff, as well as any students who will be 18 by that next November, have the opportunity to both register and vote on campus. We're hoping to do this every year. It's a great opportunity for our community, but also our students as they learn about their civic duties. Going back to the Franklin parking, just letting you know, because you may hear about this, as construction comes to the end, we will be stopping parking on Franklin, as that was a temporary city allowance. And so I have already let families and students know in my email that that will be coming to an end soon. I just want to make sure everyone is aware about that. We're not sure exactly on the date that we will end that, but just wanted to start forewarning our students that Franklin parking will come to an end. We have plenty of parking in both our upper and lower that I've been noticing, so I'm not foreseeing it being a huge issue, other than kids liking to park right in front of the school. Then my last is just a shout out. We're excited that our JHS publications of the yearbook for this past year took first place in the Division II Illinois Journalism Education Association. They looked at all yearbooks and ranked them on different areas. We took first place last year. Exciting for our publications group.
Yeah, that's great.
I just want to say kudos to Madeline for juggling finals.
Right.
In all of that, I know those were some really tough decisions, and
Yeah.
I'm happy that they got done, and I know that wasn't easy. So thank you for navigating that so well, and kudos to your staff as well for really handling that beautifully in the past 2 weeks of what they had to go through. So thank you.
Yeah, and it really was our staff and our students also who understood the situation and rallied, and still grades are coming in and look really good. So we're excited for our oral assembly when that all is finalized next week.
Cooper, you're up.
All right, we have been working with Chamber of Commerce to plan a job fair. We did have this last year. It worked pretty well. We're looking to upgrade it a little bit, maybe work with some other schools in our area to see if they want to come in and see if we can get some jobs in the local Galena filled with more students. And there have been some feedback on students that would like more students tutoring, both from students that have been interested in tutoring and those who have been requesting it. And we're collecting information on that and working on a proposal to bring tutoring to a bit larger scale than what it is currently at Galena. That's all I have.
Could I mention one thing? I'm sure Mr. Freed would have said that, but from this, I understand there is a home wrestling meet next week on the 22nd.
There is, yes.
So if you know any former wrestlers, please tell them to get there. And if you're not a wrestling fan, I've been to several matches, and I don't know if they're very good, but they are really, we have great kids on our team. You come out there, I think you can enjoy it.
The meet is at 5, starts at 5:30, and it's both our boys and our girls versus Fulton, and also will be our senior night as well for our wrestlers.
Where will that be?
I believe it's going to be a GPS, but I'm gonna have it sent to now.
That's where all the maps are at.
Those aren't easy to look. But if you could get there, you'd really enjoy it. These kids get all sorts of compliments when they go places about their enthusiasm, how they carry themselves, when they support each other. Unfortunately, they're not out there very long sometimes.
Yeah, start somewhere.
I know that feeling, thanks.
Well, that's it's kind of cool way that started when we initially presented to start wrestling. We weren't planning on having any home meets. So the reason this came up is not just to showcase the program, and but we have seniors on the team that wouldn't otherwise have a home senior night. So it's kind of a cool way to inaugural part of the program. They're kind of setting the bedrock for that. So to honor those kids.
I'm the first junior high women's tonight.
Oh.
How many junior high is it?
28.
Wow. And
That's
this,
pretty
There's
good.
always 30 in the littles that go.
Yeah,
They're
that's-
there right now. There's been like 4 or 5 that wrestled this last week. Next week is canceled and there were more. There's 10 scheduled to wrestle. So.
It's awesome.
so junior high could go, so junior high can go like young through 8th grade. Is that what you'd say? Or
This
is
year
it-
we're only doing 6 through 8.
6th through 8th.
We do have 5th graders, and some schools wrestle 5th graders, but we didn't have time to make sure they all have their physicals and everything. So everybody's up, but I think in the future we can certainly explore.
And any lower, any lower than
Yeah.
6 are the Grizzlies still.
The club, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
The high school kids have been coming and helping with practices on Thursday
Yeah.
nights, so, or whatever nights they are.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to watch those little.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing I'd like you to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Is
Mhm.
most all the kids who are doing the wrestling are not coming from other sports. This is their sport.
Sure.
You know, so you're creating opportunities for kids who normally wouldn't have opportunities. That really sticks out when you're there. A lot of kids that they're not. There's like a couple of them play basketball. So it's not like you're stealing from one to add.
Right.
It's really cool.
Is middle school co-ed as well?
Yes.
It
We might have 2 or 3, I think, girls. And we do have some East Duke kids, not many.
Yeah.
Some East Duke kids.
That's awesome.
22nd, you get a chance.
Yeah. Monday.
Monday, okay.
Mhm.
I'm writing it down. Okay, great. Anything else for any of our reports from our administration for Cooper? Any other questions? It's a good topic. Thank you very much. All good, yeah.
Yep.
Cooper, who are you gonna invite to be participants in the job fair? What
For-
did you learn from last year to this year?
So last year it was a whole school event, and it was a whole school mandatory event. We had learned that there were people that just had jobs and said, you know what, don't really want to be here. So this year it's going to be more on the optional side. And then as for like local businesses around, I believe that's more of a chamber.
Yeah, it's a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce.
I mean, are
And
people
but
like Mr. Dressler's group invited to
Anyone is invited, yeah.
contractors or?
we had the Galena pool out last year. We had what were some of the downtown businesses?
Fred Green was there.
Fried Green was there.
We had a bunch of the hotels.
Eagle Ridge.
Eagle
Eagle
Ridge
Ridge
came
was there.
out. I don't know if Chestnut was last year, but I know they'd probably be interested
The
this year.
workshop was there too.
Mhm.
Riverview.
Any contractors and like plumbing, electricians. I know it's bad during the day to do it, but is that something we should expand?
Yeah, I mean, we had over 30 vendors, and so I'm trying to remember.
Mhm.
But yeah, and we're open to any of them. Last year, we had the chamber help us by sending it out to the chamber members. But we've gotten a couple people who have heard about it and reached out to us about joining. And really, it's open to anyone who is interested in hiring our students.
Yeah, I think the city of Galena would be a good one because they're hired.
Yeah, they were here last year.
Yeah, but
So if they know of anyone who is interested, they can let myself, Ms. Steffi, really anyone on the student advisory committee know.
I think it's a cool thing you guys do with
That's
that
cool.
out there.
Great.
Good.
Anything else? Good discussions. Item number 4 is our consent agenda. So you got items there 1 through 10. I'm just looking for a motion to approve it as presented.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt. And a roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Consent agenda is approved 7-0. Old business is our second and final readings of our press issue 113. John said he would read them all individually, but we'll let him go this time. There's 8 different line items. They were all captioned. Again, we went over it last meeting, aligning with our press policy. Are there questions? Questions from anyone? We're able to review them. Do we need anything else we think before we, in our motion, we will have to hit every line item. Sorry, I went out of my duck here. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
I made a motion to approve the second and final reading of the press issues 113, 2-110, 2-120, 2-200, 2-220, 2-222, 2-226, 4.90, 8.30 as presented.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nate. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, let's move into new business then. Again, a couple of very quick line items, and we're very, very appreciative for the generosity that's coming through here. The first one is a recommendation to approve a donation in the amount of $2,275 from FOE Blackhawk Erie for the wrestling program, and they want that to go towards the wrestling match. So, if you know anyone associated with that, say thanks.
To approve a donation of $2,275 from FOE Blackhawk Erie for the wrestling program to look for wrestling matches.
Seconded.
I'm sorry. So there was a motion by John, second by Mike. Roll call, please.
Member Rosenthal,
Yes.
Member Ryland,
Yes.
Member McIntyre,
Yes.
Member Straughan,
Yes.
Member Vaughn,
Yes.
Member Dressler,
Yes.
Member Frank. Yes.
Who is that business? Who is that? That business.
That donated?
Eagles,
Oh, yeah.
fraternal order.
No, they're Eagles.
Eagles.
It's Eagles.
Okay. I
Oh,
didn't-
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't. Okay. And the public content kind of hesitated there. The public content part matches the next one.
Oh,
So we know. Just
Yep.
as I was like, oh, did we do that right? Okay, so 6.2 is a recommendation to approve another very generous donation in the amount of $4,000 from Straight Arrow for the wrestling program for wrestling mats.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the donation, very generous donation, amount of $4,000 for the Straight Arrow for the wrestling program for wrestling fans.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Roll call, please, Ann.
Member Rosenthal,
Yes.
Member McIntyre,
Yes.
Member Straughan,
Yes.
Member Vaughn,
Yes.
Member Dressler,
Yes.
Member Frank. Yes.
All right, 6.2. Do we know who's Straight Arrow?
Business out of Platteville. And, Webster Rock.
Nice. So it's probably someone like
It's what?
Mr. Gary Webster connected with, and
Straight
Went to Dublin.
Arrow Apartments.
Yeah. nice. Supporting the program. It's great.
Okay.
What's that I missed? Oh, this is a cool name. Yeah. 6.3, we are looking at a submission for a property tax relief grant to ISB. I'm going to let Mr. Vincent touch on that very quickly.
Sure. So this is just a kind of a shell game in which if it's a competitive grant that they've allocated $49.3 million, it's actually part of the state aid, the evidence-based funding formula in order to give this. This is something that another program that they ran. And basically the maximum that we can apply for is overall is $243,454. If awarded, we would abate those taxes locally and still the school district would still get that revenue from the state. So it's a wash from the district end. It would just be taking care of the local taxpayers.
That I'll make a motion to approve the submission of the 2024 property tax relief grant to ISBE in the amount of $243,454.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt. Roll call, please, Ann.
Member Rosenthal,
Yes.
Member Vaughn,
Yes.
Member Dressler,
Yes.
Member Frank.
Yes.
Member Hyman,
Yes.
Member McIntyre,
Yes.
Member Straughan.
Yes. So 6.3 carries unanimously 7-0.
Real quick, do we just when we find out on that?
I think it's the next couple of months here. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
6.4 is we are looking at adding the business economics and accounting program at Galena High School. There's a presentation linked here in your public content, and we're going to let Mrs. Hawkins go through that quickly with
I
us.
didn't have access either. Here, I will get it for you right now. Should be updated. I'm gonna talk some informational for today and very open to any questions tonight or the next month, before we go to the vote next month. But I want to talk to you about the potential of starting back up a business program for Galena High School for the 24-25 school year. So just wanted to kind of start of how this all came to me. So early last year, I had a group of students approach me about wanting to start an FBLA chapter, which I think all of you know we have now up and going, which is the Future Business Leaders of America. The rationale for these students coming to me is they're all students interested in business as a potential career path, and because we do not have business programs, we're looking for another way to get some experience and some education in that area. As of the last 2 years, we had 30 plus students participating in our Future Business Leaders of America. It is still really kind of up and going as we're figuring this out as a school to bring it back. I also then started digging in a little bit into what potential the need or desire is from students. And I was able to also see that since 2015, which is the last year we had business, we've had 29 students that have paid money to take online business courses because they're not offered here at Galena High School. So all of this led us to digging into, is this something that actually would be a good step for Galena High School to offer something in our building? So the process we went through, I went through a couple stages to collect some information of, is this something that would be sustainable? Would we have enough interest to make this happen? We started with some student interviews just to understand what their interests were, worked with Stephanie to actually research what courses we could offer. And then we have registration days with our incoming freshmen as well as our current freshmen through juniors. We do this every year, in which we talk with all of our students about every course they could take in the next year, and they go into meetings with Mrs. Stephanie in order to plan their schedules out. So in those events, we pitched these business classes as potential, letting students know it was not a for sure, but we wanted to get numbers because that was the first step in making it a reality. So then we looked at numbers to see if we could actually make this happen. So here are our numbers. I do have a caveat right now because our meetings with our incoming freshmen happen this week and next week. So these are actually none of our incoming freshman numbers, who they would be eligible for these classes. Specifically, we're seeing intro to business having a little bit of a jump in those numbers. So based on this, what we have so far, there's high interest. We currently have 19 students interested in intro to business, which could be up to 2 sections depending on the freshman incoming, as well as an accounting and a macroeconomics course. There are many courses in business that we could look at in future years. It would not have to necessarily always be these ones. These were just a lot of the beginning courses that made sense to start with, but there's anything from business communications to entrepreneurship and a lot of different courses through the state. So it could be something that changes on a year-to-year basis if we have this program, so that students could take a different course every year. So when we talk about positive impact versus what are some of the concerns that I had as a school leader, so first, positive, I just think it's a great opportunity for our students. It is a great potential career path, and as we look to really set our students up for success after school, not having this program is an opportunity our students currently don't have. It also would allow us to increase our FBLA as an organization. FBLA is a nationally recognized organization in which there are incredible competitions and scholarships available, but without having a business program, it's hard to do as much with it as we would like to. We also have the potential for more partnerships with the school that can come in to work with the business program. And finally, it could be a dual credit pathway for students. Highland Community College has already spoken to me, and many, if not all of our business courses could be offered for dual credit, as they're considered similar to our CTE programs, like some of our agriculture or arts programs that do dual credit as well, without a teacher having the licensure in that area. So we wouldn't have to worry about who we hired, we could still get the dual credits. So some concerns, one thing we're thinking about is just the physical space at Galena High School, where would we actually put this classroom. I think there's some potential workarounds that we can make it work, but definitely something I have to think about in that role. And then obviously the biggest one is impact on other programs. What we don't want to do is start a new program, which then takes away from our current programs we already have. So when we did look at numbers of interest for business, we also looked at how did that impact our other current programs. As of right now, our elective programs for industrial arts, art, English electives, family and student sciences, all held steady numbers. We were not pulling from any of those areas. Our ag program was one of the biggest concerns because there are some, not overlap, but could be more overlap. And we only saw that 4 of the current interested students also were in the agriculture program, and 2 of them would want to take both an ag and a business course. So what we are proposing is, we're asking to approve for a business program starting 24-25. It would be a part-time business teacher to lead this program. The reason for that, again, is that we want to make sure we are doing the right capacity of how many students we have interested in this program. I do believe we could have interest in finding someone to fill that role. And the idea would be that they would teach 3 to 4 business courses, run and expand the FBLA organization, and then also continue to support with community partnerships and job support for students in the community. Any questions?
If this goes, if it gets approved, would the new teacher have some say in the initial courses, or are these set in stone?
That is a great question. So the answer is yes, depending on student interest, right? If we hired someone who really wanted to teach business communications, but we have no students who want to take that course, it would operate very similarly to how we currently work with electives. I have teachers who are like, I really want to teach this novel class and have no students to sign up, and then we don't run the course. So it would be a combination of their input. However, at the end of the day, we're run by student interest in what courses they want.
Okay. And do you, are there descriptions of these courses somewhere that you could send
Yes,
out?
I can get to you, no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
And you don't believe it'd be a problem finding half-time teachers?
I think it's always fun to find a part-time. I think myself and Mr. Vincent have been like thoughtful of how we combine it with some other roles we're just looking to fill. I think that we could. If we don't, obviously that would be the next hurdle, but I also don't want to pitch a full-time role, and I don't believe that is financially or the size of our school what we need.
I know this is preliminary now, but it says the teacher would teach 3 to 4 business courses. So there's, and then going to expand our FBLA organization, is that in addition to those 3 or 4 classes?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, giving them some other responsibilities.
Exactly.
But not as a full-time teacher, but that would be more.
Yeah. So it's not exactly like it's similar to how our agriculture teacher runs FFA. Most business programs will run the future business program in their school.
Are there any business courses at the school now?
No.
Consumer education.
Consumer education, which is a state requirement, so there are business components, but it's more on life skills for after graduation, resume building, budgeting, things like that that fall into the realm. The other thing is that most business programs across schools, it's either their ag or their business person that teaches those classrooms. So something we could also do year to year based on student interest is if for 1 year FFA interest goes up, we could pull some of those consumer ed classes from our ed teacher and give them to business and vice versa.
Yes, good.
I think it's great.
I can get, I have descriptions of those 3 classes. They will be pitched and sent to students. So I will get that sent out to the whole board.
Thank you.
Again, this is informational tonight. We'll bring that back again at the next board meeting. So anytime between now and next meeting, feel free to reach out to Mrs. Hawkins. And then we'll see some more follow-up information. And then you're up again for 6.5 ESL Certificate of Completion. Do you want to touch on that quickly?
Yes. So this actually came about, in the state of Illinois, if you are identified as an English second language, you can stay in high school until the age of 21 to prior English acquisition. And this came about is we had a student who aged out last year and speaking with the state of how do I exit them out of our systems, et cetera, and had the feeling that they should, though they were not eligible for a diploma, get something for the work that they did at Galena High School. So in speaking with the Illinois State Board of Education, they did inform me that for students who are ineligible to get a diploma, we could create what's called a certificate of completion. This is somewhat similar to what some of our students with in our special ed program get who also do not meet the state requirements. They still get a certificate of completion showing that they met the requirements under their group of students. So that's where this comes from. There are some criteria that I have laid out. The goal for this really is a couple things. One is we want our students who come to us at 17, 18, 19 years of age, and because of how many years they can stay in school or their current language ability, there is not a path for a diploma, right? This is not for students who can get a diploma. That is our first goal only, and if they can, they would not be eligible for this. It's to allow them to have something showing that they did work for English acquisition that they could take to an employer in our community to show that as a form of the education that they received. We're also hoping that it could help keep some of these students with us longer to actually meet these criteria, because oftentimes knowing they can't get a diploma, they leave us earlier before they really meet that level of English acquisition that can help them be successful out in the job force. So the criteria that we have set is that they must be at 12th grade and are 18 years or older. The reason for this is that a student that is ESL, if they do leave prior to being of that age, they still are considered that they dropped out of high school. We don't want that on their records or for our school. So we want them to actually be with us until they would age out. Second is having 18 ESL course credits. That's how many classes they could take. Of course, they could have more than that. And then the third is a score of 3 or higher on the WIDA, which is our access test. It's a test that we give all of our English language learners to identify their English acquisition. For context, a 4 is when someone would be exited out of ESL. We're hoping that they would meet a level 3, which would show that they have a high enough level of conversational English to be successful if they were to be working in a service job here in our community.
How many students typically do we have that fall into this category?
So currently we have 19 students in ESL at the high school. We have 1 that would meet the criteria this year for this. And I would say 3 to 4 in the next couple of years that could meet this criteria.
And do you see that number maintaining or growing?
It is really hard to know. I would say that what I have seen is that our ESL population just continues to grow and increase. I think there are a lot of aspects in which some years we see more coming and some years fewer. I think what we're really thinking is those students that come to us at 19, giving them a pathway to acknowledge the work that they're doing that they can use in the community. This would not be able to be used to go to a trade school or a tech school or a 4-year or 2-year university if it's not considered an actual diploma, which is why we can actually do it as a board, because it's not considered something they can use for that purpose.
How easy is it to hold them to the term, or give them to stay till they're 21?
It really depends on the students. And I don't think the goal is that we're keeping them until 21. I think that they meet these requirements at 18 or 19. That is, that's going to be fine. I think we want them to stay with us for as long as they need to learn the English skills to be as successful as possible.
So as long as they get that level 3, they're only 19 years old.
That is fine.
It doesn't go into
Yeah.
school as far as,
The only time it counts against the school is if they leave prior to that 18 or senior year equivalent.
okay.
Great question.
And so right now, we have nothing in place.
Correct. So right now, any student in our ESL program that leaves, we just mark them as aged out. And that's about it. I think this would also allow us that they could even be part of our graduation ceremony. They would get a different certificate, but still celebrate that milestone with their parents and families.
Absolutely. I love this, thank you.
The assessment score, does that kind of indicate if they get a 3 or higher that it would help them obtain a GED? Is that kind of like an indicator that they would?
So the access test looks at their speaking skills, listening skills, so being able to understand, writing skills, reading skills, I'm missing one. And you can get anywhere from a 0 to a 5 on it.
Okay.
Again, if they score an average of a 4, they're exited out of our ESL program. At that level, they are able to engage in academic English. At a 3, though, they're fluent and able to have a conversation, for sure.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
So yeah, again, informational only. If you have other questions, her certificate proposal is linked there in our board docs. Feel free to reach out with questions and we'll bring it back for final approval at February board meeting. 6.6 is our second quarter financial update. We're gonna let Mr. Vincent touch on that.
Sure. So every quarter I give a update of where we are compared to the timeline of the budget. So read this as through 50% of the fiscal year. And I've got a little comparison there of what we've budgeted back in September and where we are right now. So the top of that page in board docs is the total budget. It is really, we've talked about this for a couple of years, but it's really thrown off when we have construction. You spend a lot on the front end, and maybe not all the percentages are what we expect. But in the just as I go down the line in the education fund, we're at just over 46% through 50% of the year. So feel really good about that. Our operations and maintenance fund is about 64% through 50% of the year. Remember that bond payment comes out, and our bond payment that was due December 1st was the bulk portion of that. So that's what threw that off. I've got a breakdown without that bond payment. We are just under 50%. We're at 49.53% in that particular fund. So again, I feel really good about that. The debt service consists of, we budgeted $929,000 this year. That consists of the 2016 QZAB bonds, those zero interest bonds that are still levied, as well as the bond that is not levied for GEMS. So that is not set up in two equal payments. Of our $800,000 payment on GEMS, $600,000 is due December 1st, and the rest is due in June. So it's totally fine. It's the agreement we set out for. It's the contract that we're following, but it does throw things like the second quarter financial update. It does throw it off a little bit. Transportation fund is just under 70%. Core reason for that is that our bus leases are due at the beginning of the year. That's our most major payment. We don't pay another dime throughout the rest of the year. So, again, I feel good about that, where that's trending. And then going down the line, let me skip down to capital projects. Finishing up this building. If you remember, we budgeted $6.7 million. We're not going to get there. We're actually going to save money on that. We're not going to spend everything that we budgeted that. But since we are towards the end of the project, the annual budget being at 80% is just fine. Tort immunity is another similar situation. Of the Fund 80, all of our insurance, our workman's comp, our property liability, any legal retainers, those all come out of there. Again, those are all paid in full at the front end of the year. So those are due July 1st, and then we don't pay until next July 1st. So that's why it's thrown off. In the bottom, I just looked at, if we didn't have any construction going on in our operating funds, how are we doing? We're just at just under 48% through 50% of the year. So it's been a solid budget. There's a lot of guesswork involved over the summer to do a budget for the entire following year, and I feel fine about where it's at. Questions?
Questions on the budget? Okay. So that was 6.6. Again, informational only. We can, if you have any other additional questions, feel free to follow up. We are going to move on to 6.7. This is a consideration and possible action on the status of our closed minutes that are from closed session minutes from July 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. So this is standard procedure that twice a year the board reviews and determines if the minutes should be kept closed, which is what we've traditionally done in the past here at Glenn Unit School District 120. So that's what we're looking for in the recommended action. Number one. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the board semi-annual review again, release closed meeting minutes from July 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Keep said minutes closed.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Roll call, please, Sam.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 6.7 carries 7. 6.8 is a recommendation to reduce the treasurer's surety bond to $4 million. That was previously at $7.5 million. Do you want to kind of touch on this?
Sure. This was actually hit in the press policies that you approved. Districts are allowed to, previously they had to have 25% of the total fund balance in a treasurer's surety bond. They have reduced that to 10%. So if we do that, if we stay at 25%, We paid just under 19,000 for that surety bond. If we reduce it to $4 million, which is 10% of our, and it's conservative estimate, but if we reduce that to $4 million surety bond, that'll drop to 10,000. So we'll save about $9,000 if we drop that. We're allowed to do it. We don't have to, but we're allowed to.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's surety bond, $4 million from 7.5.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt. Roll call, please, Ann.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 6.8 carries 7-0. 6.9, we are looking at the school calendar for 2024-2025. As presented there, the calendar is attached as a PDF. We are looking at starting on August 15th, staff would start on August 15th, students would come on August 19th. Election day, we will recognize as a holiday. There are fall and spring parent-teacher conferences that are scheduled in the calendar as well, along with a spring break, a longer 2-week winter break, and the last student attendance day tentatively being May 22nd and ending before Memorial Day weekend. Questions on the calendar, comments?
Did you get any feedback in regard from the teachers or staff in regards to, I mean, I know the schedule's been kind of messed up, but, we did have a shorter Christmas break this year. We do not have a spring break. Was this preferred to go back to how the schedule was?
And part of the winter break first. It's mostly where Christmas falls and where New Year's Day falls. And this year, with Christmas being on a Wednesday, Christmas Eve being on a Tuesday, you don't want to bring kids back for just Monday and then be out on break. So it's more about, this year was less about squeezing days in and just where it landed on the calendar.
Okay.
So so the reason why it's 2 weeks is not to get back to traditional. It's just because of where it landed. And then New Year's Day falls on a Wednesday. So, and we typically have a Teacher Institute Day coming back. So that's kind of the same situation on the other end, in which we don't want to have a Teachers Institute Day on January 2nd and then bring kids back for just Friday the 3rd. Instead we'll push the Institute Day to Monday. The other reason for that Institute Day being Monday the 6th, we're trying to arrange a countywide, getting all the schools together who want to participate and do a joint Institute Day, so we can have presentations from different teachers in different districts, and we have more capacity with more teachers to get really specialized in our professional development. So most districts are looking to come back on the 6th for that. So that's the other reason for winter break. Spring break was a request from the teachers to bring that back. That's a preferred option. And I would say that, it's when you talk about calendar, it's never unanimous. Everybody has their own opinions about, when we should start, when we should get out, certain things like that. But that was, I'd say the overall consensus was to bring back spring break.
And it looks like Easter is then a few weeks after that.
Right. Easter is really late this year. I believe it's April 20th is Easter.
Okay, yeah.
So I do like to package the Easter holiday with spring break, but with us getting out on May 22nd to have a spring break in that last full week of April, it felt like, if we're gonna have it that late, what's the point, kind of thing. So
No, and I think that's spaced out nicely. So.
right.
No, I just want to be sure that since we do have the flexibility going to what was our traditional calendar, that, our teachers and staff were in favor
Yes.
of that. So, yeah.
Yep.
It's fine with me.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yep.
I'm glad that you gave your spring break back, even though I'm an anti-spring break person, but I defer to my colleagues. The only thing I would say about spring break is the ones I've seen in my experience that are the best, it's kind of a nice thing, is the earlier it is, the better, as far as having more, like a full quarter of the school year left to go, if it's at all possible. Where you know that, where it's set so much in time that it just seems like when there's 9 full weeks, there's quality learning that can go on better than if it's shorter. So, and I see this one's 8. or so, that's not too bad. But in my experience, when it's 9 weeks out, that's a pretty good time. And it also allows the spring sport people to have less interference with their time too. And, usually that weather at that March time, when it's earlier like that, I'm not gonna use it much for anything anyway. So it's usually bad. That's my only thought is I hope that will be a part of the discussion going forward, is to come up with a rubric that sets the spring break based on standards like that other than Easter. That's my only point. Okay?
Sure.
Any other questions, comments on the calendar? Did I miss anything there?
No, I don't think so.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-25 school calendar.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, this is really close. We'll give it to Nate. Second by Nate. Roll call, please, Ann.
Yes.
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 Okay, your 2024-2025 school calendar is approved 7-0. All right, 6.10 is a recommendation to approve a contract with Grant Specialties. That's where we're looking at having them write a grant for us.
Right. The specific grant is the School Violence Prevention Program. It's a federal program through the Department of Justice. That's a competitive grant that allows for hard security, like specifically security cameras and forced entry, secure entry systems into schools. So there's very few grants that are out there for school construction. This is one that we could apply to the proposed project. It's $500,000, and it would 500,000 would be 75%. It would take a 25% match. With everything that we've got going, it makes sense to apply for this. It opens in March and is a pretty quick turnaround. We'll know in May for this one. So. Mm-hmm. And so Grant Specialties is a company that specializes in this particular grant to write it. It's their contract is $4,000 for this.
So what was the company that wrote that last one for?
That was
Bad.
JBAD Solutions, JBAD Solutions.
Because they were specific for those.
They were specific to that one. Yeah.
Is that typical? When
Yes.
you see there's not like a general grant?
Right. And when we will be looking at it's called Safe Routes to Schools. That's I believe a DNR actually program, and we would partner with the city on that. That'll be a separate grant writer that specializes in that and has success getting that. So it's not typically a grant. Typically grant writers specialize in particular grants and then it's helpful for me to say, what is your success rate for this particular
Right.
grant? And it's in this particular company. It's in the 70s. So.
Anything else for Mr. Benson on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Grant Specialties as presented.
There's a motion by John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt. Roll call, please, Ann.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 6.10, the last item in new business, motion carries 7-0. That concludes the public portion of our board meeting. We are going to enter into executive session with no action coming out of that. But would someone like to read our very long motion there on 7.1?
Is that recommended action?
Yes, or subject. They're both
Go ahead.
Subject or recommended?
they're the same.
Motion entered
Motion.
to executive session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120-2 C1 amended by PA 101-459.
I'll second that. That's well done.
Great job. Motion by Nikki, second by John. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And the motion carries.
I got wind.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Good job. Nikki's gonna read the longer ones from now on. That was the fastest reading.
That was a great job. We should have timed you.
Around.
That was a good job.
Are we gonna just stay here?
What do you think?
I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you